Good evening, this is Michael, Treeline Backpacker. Wanted to come at you with a little something different today. Of course, this is not backpacking gear, this is a bike. But this is an adventure bike and something I ride quite a bit. It's actually my second adventure bike. I picked this one up because the first one wasn't quite doing it for me. This is the Salsa Journeyman 650b. This is an aluminum frame bike. It has a carbon front fork. It has a 2x9 derailleur, and that's pretty much it. Now, if you're wondering what an adventure bike is or a touring bike, they're pretty similar. This is more of a touring bike, to be honest. This is something that you would use for long distance riding, the gravel, dirt, roads, and you can actually use this for bike packing. It would do a great job of that, and I'll cover some of the reasons why in just a little bit. But a couple of details: this is a $1,200 bike, weighs about 26 pounds, comes with everything you see here except the lights. Does not come with pedals, does not come even with the water bottle holders, honestly. But it does come with a lot of places to put water bottles. You can see you can put one right up here. You can also put packs in different racks there. Got a water bottle mount there. You have one hidden here by the front derailleur. And you have a lot of mounts on the front fork. Now, this is a fairly robust bike. It's pretty sturdy, designed to hold the weight of bike packing, so you can put a lot of gear on here and you can spend multiple days out on the trail, which is great. And that, of course, is right up my alley, which is one of the reasons I got this. I spend a lot of time on the gravel. I ride this in the dirt, city streets, but as usual, I'm going to come at you with some pros, some cons, talk a little bit about it. Now, one of the things I like the most, of course, is the geometry, and that's really the reason I picked up the bike. It falls somewhere in between what you would expect out of a road bike and what you would expect out of a mountain bike. You do sit fairly upright, at least in comparison to something like a road bike or a traditional gravel bike. It is a little taller in the front. It puts you in a slightly more upright position, but you are still leaning over the bars more than you would be on a mountain bike. But overall, it's a very comfortable ride, and they've done a lot to ensure that is the case. You've got the drop bars up front. These feel pretty good. They are adjustable, so you can change the angles up if you want to. I do keep mine somewhat downward position because mostly I'm just riding gravel, trying to get some speed. If you want to be more upright, you can lift those up a little bit, and it still feels pretty good without throwing off the geometry. You'd have a fairly low bottom bracket, so it feels pretty stable. You're not feeling like you're too high off the ground. And a fairly long tail also, which also makes it a little more stable. There is a measurement called trail, basically the distance between the contact of the front and rear wheel. Longer than what you would expect to see on a road bike, shorter than what you would expect to see on a mountain bike, or at least these days. Now, a couple of good details about this bike, things I really like. It does have a pretty comfortable saddle. Got the WT Volt, and this is the, I think, the Sport Edition. I got some dirt up here. So it's kind of a mid-level seat, but it does have a nice flex. So when you sit down on this, it does give. Feels pretty nice, especially when you're hitting the rough stuff. This light I added on myself because I like to use the flashers anytime I'm going to cross a road or something so people can see me. Now, the tires, these tires are great. These are 650b tires. These are definitely thicker than what you would expect to see on a road bike. They're basically mountain bike tires at this point. You have a smaller rim, you have more air in the tire itself, which creates a softer, more plush ride. You also get much better traction. If you take a look here, these are fairly wide tires. You can put 700C wheels on here, so if you do want to roll faster, cut down rolling resistance, you can do that, but honestly, these roll pretty good. They're not amazing. The tread pattern, you do have the center bead, but it is broken up. If you look real close, kind of out of focus there. If you look real close, there are gaps there, so you do feel that on pavement or even hard-packed gravel. There's a little bit of rolling resistance, but definitely smoother than what you would have on, say, just a knobby tire. But they do roll pretty good, track great in mud, on dirt, gravel, and even pavement. A little tougher to push than I would prefer. I'm actually going to swap these out eventually with something a little smoother, just because I don't spend a whole lot of time in the mud and I really don't need those knobs. But when you do need them, they are nice to have. But for me, the rolling resistance is just something I want to lean towards there. Of course, the pedals did not come on here. I'll go ahead and mention these while I'm at it. These are Race Face Chesters, plastic composite pedals. I choose these because they feel great. Good traction, they're pretty affordable, durable. I do recommend these if you're going to throw it on there. They're good on mountain bikes, road bikes. I'm just a flat platform kind of guy. I don't like clipless pedals. I don't like clipping in. So those are aftermarket. The water bottle's aftermarket, or the cage as I should say. Now coming down here, you do have Shimano Sora shifters. You've got 9 speeds in the back. You do have 2 up front. These work pretty well. Has a pretty decent range. You'll have to shift into the lower gear in the front if you really want to do some climbing, but you can shift it into that larger gear and have a pretty good range, pick up a lot of speed. Actually, I've never really hit the top speed on this. These do pretty good. I'm probably going to eventually upgrade to a 1x system, 11 or 12 gears in the back, and just get rid of that front derailleur. My only real complaint with that is you have the trim system that Shimano has. So when you're basically cross-chaining your gears, the largest in the front versus the smallest in the back, or vice versa, you will get some rubbing up here, as you can see. The chain will rub that. You really can't adjust it out, but the shifters up front have essentially a half shift, and it's going to bump that out of the way. So if you're on the highest chain or sprocket or the lowest, you can use that trim function to get it back off so it's not going to rub. So that is there. I don't like dealing with that. You don't have to really deal with that with SRAM systems so much, or the higher end 1x systems. So I'm probably going to upgrade that. There is the Apex model of this bike, which does come with a 1x, but you're stuck with a yellow or pink frame. And I did the math. It wasn't going to be much more expensive to get the frame color that I like, this nice blue, which looks gorgeous. I don't know if it comes across in the video, but you can still get the blue, upgrade the drivetrain, have basically the same bike, but have what, in my eyes, just a more traditional color. I'm not really a pink or a yellow guy. They look great, just not for me. So let's talk about these handlebars for a bit. Handlebars are fairly wide, not the widest I've used. I would prefer them to be a little wider, mostly because when you're on the bar here, your hands do feel a little close together. Your wrist will be pointing towards the center of your body instead of straight. I prefer a bar that's going to land those, or keep my wrist straight. When you get up here, you can see the brakes. These are mechanical brakes. Even at $1,200, you're still getting mechanical brakes on these gravel bikes for some reason. They do work well. They feel pretty okay, but it is still disappointing to see mechanical brakes on $1,200 and even $1,500 adventure bikes. So, but that's the thing. The bar tape feels pretty good. It's got these nice Salsa logos kind of baked into them there. They feel pretty nice over the rough stuff. You can move your hands around to the drops, up on the horns, and just keep changing your hand position to stay comfortable over long rides. One problem I am having though, right here you can see the tape is actually kind of melting off of this thing. It's actually slid all the way over here. It's all sticky. Anytime it hits about 90 degrees or higher, this tape starts coming off on me, which is kind of weird. It's 3M tape, so I don't know if it's 3M's fault, something Salsa did, maybe the bar material, but I'm having that problem. The fork, as I mentioned before, is a carbon fork. It's pretty strong. It feels great. It doesn't really do a whole lot for vibration absorption like a lot of people are convinced. You can feel a slight difference between this and something like just a really stiff aluminum frame. It does take a little bit of the edge off the high frequency chatter, but once you throw these big wheels on there, it doesn't really matter as much. You'll feel definitely the benefit of the wheels, the higher air volume, more than you will the fork. But it does lighten the front. It feels pretty good. It's really tight and responsive. The rotors themselves they came great. They were true, ready to go. I picked this up at a RAI, so they set it up for me. I'm not sure what adjustments they did. Those have been doing great front and back. I believe these are 160mm rotors. Also the Shimano brakes work pretty good. And one more thing I want to kind of talk about this derailleur system, of course, it shifts pretty good. It's pretty reliable. It's easy to adjust. But if you start hitting really chunky stuff, this chain will slap. I can't tell if it's hitting the frame. I need to clean this up. You can tell I've been doing a lot of riding. I can't tell if it's hitting the frame or just bouncing off the derailleur, but when you hit the chunky stuff, there is a lot of slap noise. So I'm gonna have to figure that out. Once I upgrade to the 1x system, I have a feeling that's gonna go away because this does not have a clutch. There's nothing really there to keep it nice and tight when you're bouncing over that stuff. But overall, I do love this bike. It's been great. I've got probably about 120 miles on it at this point. And there's not really a whole lot I'm going to change about it. I'm going to change those tires. That's just a preference thing. I am going to eventually upgrade that drivetrain. That's something I feel like it kind of needs. It could use the range. It could use the bottom end as far as the low end gears. And getting rid of that chain slap would be nice. I'm eventually going to have to do something with this melting tape. But otherwise, it's been great. I've rode this lots of dirt, lots of gravel. It's rode really nice on the pavement. And honestly, I've just had a great time. It's one of the most comfortable bikes I've ever ridden. Just having the carbon fork, the 650b tires, and that more relaxed geometry really pays off. So I've been having a great time with this. This is a bike I would recommend, even at the price. I don't know if I would necessarily go with the more expensive model. You'd really have to want that 1x drivetrain and be okay with those colors. It's about $1,500 at that point, and you're getting a very limited selection of paint. But this one, I'm really digging that. So let me know what you think. Have you ever rode one of these? Would you consider a bike like this? It's kind of a hybrid between a mountain bike and a road bike, so I can see this working out for a lot of people. It's great for commuting. It's great for throwing lots of gear on there. I'm hopefully gonna be posting some bike packing trips with this pretty soon. But overall, it's been good, so appreciate you watching. Check out the website, treelinebackpacker.com, and do let me know if you have any questions at all. Thanks a lot.